The emergency signal came through at 0347 Galactic Standard Time. Every receiver in the council chamber picked it up at once, filling the grand hall with static and desperate voices. The Valerian colony was dying. Council member Thalnon pressed a button with one of his 12 delicate fingers. The main screen showed a fuzzy image of the Valerian settlement. Buildings were on fire. Small bodies ran through smoke-filled streets. The transmission cut in and out, but everyone could hear the screaming. "Please, anyone who receives this," a Valerian voice begged through the speakers. "We need help. The Krenth swarm is here. They're killing everyone. Our shields are almost gone. We have maybe 3 days left. Please. We have children here. 2 million civilians. Please help us." 2. The transmission ended. Silence filled the chamber. Thalnon looked around at the other council members. His species, the Khorne, were known for careful thinking. They lived on a world with light gravity and pleasant weather. War was something they read about in history files, not something they practiced. Most council species were the same. "The nearest defense fleet is the 7th, said Council Member Prella. She was from Andros Prime. Another peaceful world. They can be there in 21 days. 34-1. The Valerians said they have 3 days, Thalnon replied quietly. Maybe less. More silence. Every member knew what this meant. They would arrive to find corpses and ruins. The Krenth swarm always killed everyone. That was their way. "We could send a diplomatic request to the Krenth," suggested another member, though his voice carried no hope. Everyone knew the Krenth did not do diplomacy. They took what they wanted and killed anyone in their way. Thalnon made a decision he knew would be unpopular. "We broadcast on all channels, including the restricted frequencies." Every member turned to look at him. Prella's face went pale, which for her species meant turning from blue to almost white. "You cannot mean the human channel," she said. "They are the only ones close enough," Thalnon answered. "Their third fleet is 6 days from Valerian space." "Absolutely not," said Councilmember Vorath, standing up. His massive frame shook with anger. "Humans are dangerous. They come from a death world. Do you know what they eat? They consume the flesh of other animals. They poison themselves with chemicals for recreation. Their own planet tries to kill them constantly, and they thrive on it." Thalnon did not back down. "They also have the strongest military in known space, which makes them more dangerous, not less," Prella said. "We invited them to join the council 3 years ago. Do you remember what their diplomat said? She laughed at our weapons. She called our warships cute. She said a single human destroyer could defeat our entire defense fleet. She was probably right," Thalnon said quietly. The chamber erupted in argument. Some members agreed with Thalnon. Most did not. They talked about human violence, human aggression, human disregard for proper procedure. They mentioned the human homeworld, Earth, with its crushing gravity that would kill most species in hours. They spoke of human history, filled with endless wars. But in the end, 2 million Valarian lives outweighed their fear. The vote passed by a narrow margin. The signal went out on all channels, including the one monitored by the humans. Halfway across the sector, Commander Dae-hyun sat in his quarters aboard the UENF Indomitable. He was reading reports about the crew's training exercises when his terminal beeped. Priority message on the emergency channel. He opened it. His face remained calm as he read, but his jaw tightened. He had seen war before, many times, but attacking civilians always made his blood run hot. Dae-hyun stood and walked to the bridge. His boots made heavy sounds on the metal floor. Everything on human ships was built heavy because humans were heavy. Their gravity, their bones, their expectations of what materials should withstand. "Captain Yuna," he said as he entered the bridge. "Sound general quarters. All hands to battle stations." Yuna looked up from her station. She was younger than Dae-hyun but had fought in the Titan campaign. She knew that tone in his voice. "What's happening, sir?" "We have an SOS. Valerian colony under attack by Krenth raiders. 2 million civilians. 3 days until complete destruction." He moved to his command chair. "We're going to answer it." "Sir, that's 6 days at maximum speed," Yuna said, already running calculations on her screen. "They'll be dead before we arrive." "Then we make it in 5 days, Dae-hyun said simply. "Or 4. However fast these ships can move, that's how fast we'll go." "The Council hasn't authorized military action," Yuna pointed out, though she was already sending orders to the engineering section. "They sent the distress call on our frequency," Dae-hyun replied. "That's all the authorization I need. Besides, since when do we wait for politicians to tell us to save lives?" Yuna smiled slightly. "Never, sir." The Indomitable's alarms began to sound throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Crew members ran to their stations with practiced speed. They had trained for this moment countless times. In the engineering section, Minho checked his reactor displays. The ship's main engineer was shorter than most human males, but had arms thick with muscle from working with heavy equipment. He grew up on Mars, where the gravity was lighter than Earth, but he had spent years adapting to Earth normal gravity for military service. "Engineering, ready for maximum acceleration," he reported to the bridge. "I can give you continuous thrust at 8G if you need it." Most alien species would die under 8G acceleration. Their bones would break. Their organs would rupture. Their brains would shut down from lack of blood. Humans just needed to lie down in special chairs and let their ship's medical system monitor them. In the Marine barracks, Sergeant Hana was already yelling at her troops. "Full combat load. Check your seals twice. We're doing a hot drop into an active combat zone." Her Marines moved with efficiency born from endless training. Each one wore armor that weighed more than an entire Valerian. Each one carried weapons that could punch through steel plating. Each one had grown up on Earth, where everything from the weather to the wildlife tried to kill you. Hana herself checked her rifle one more time. It was a simple weapon by human standards. Point at target, pull trigger. Target stopped existing. She had used it on 3 different worlds, and it never failed her. "Think we'll make it in time, Sarge?" asked one of the younger Marines. "We better," Hana replied. "Otherwise we're just showing up to bury bodies and hunt raiders. I prefer to save people before they need burying." On the bridge, Dae-hyun watched his fleet assemble. 47 ships, from massive dreadnoughts to quick destroyers. Every one built by humanity to fight in the harshest conditions imaginable. Every one crewed by people who grew up being told their planet was trying to kill them. "All ships report ready, sir," Yuna announced. "Set course for Valerian space. Maximum speed. Formation Delta. And someone get me everything we have on the Krenth swarm." The Third Fleet moved as one, their engines burning bright enough to be seen from nearby planets. Inside each ship, humans prepared for war, with the calm focus of predators who knew exactly what they were doing. Dae-hyun looked at the star chart showing the Valerian colony. So far away, so little time. But he had made a career out of doing impossible things. Communications. Send a message to the Valerian colony. Tell them help is coming. Tell them to hold on. "Sir, they might not receive it through the jamming," the communications officer said. "Send it anyway. If even one person hears it and finds hope, it's worth it." The message transmitted across space at light speed. Dae-hyun did not know if anyone heard it. He did not know if they would arrive in time. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The Krenth swarm had made a mistake. They had attacked someone under the protection of humanity, whether they knew it or not. And humanity was coming to remind them what apex predators really looked like. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed, leaving the safety of Council space behind and heading toward battle. The human fleet moved through faster than light space at speeds that would kill most alien crews. Inside each ship, gravity compensators worked overtime to keep the crew alive during the brutal acceleration. Even with the compensators, everyone felt the pressure. Dae-hyun sat in his command chair, reviewing tactical data on the Krenth swarm. They were pirates and raiders, nothing more. They had never fought anyone who could fight back. The council species were too peaceful, too fragile. The Krenth attacked soft targets and grew fat on easy victories. That was about to change. "Sir, engineering reports we can maintain current speed for 72 hours, Yuna said, reading from her screen. "After that, we'll need to reduce thrust or risk burning out the main drives. We'll be there in 60 hours, Dae-hyun replied. "Tell Minho to push the reactors to 110%. I want every bit of speed he can give me." Down in engineering, Minho heard the order and grinned. Finally, a chance to see what these ships could really do. The UENF Indomitable was built in the orbital shipyards above Earth, designed to fight in conditions that would destroy lesser vessels. Now he was going to prove it. "You heard the commander," he shouted to his team. 110% on all reactors. Monitor the heat levels every 30 seconds. If something starts to melt, I want to know, before it becomes a problem. His assistant, a young engineer named Kwan, looked worried. "Sir, the safety protocols say we shouldn't exceed 105% for more than an hour. 70 protocols. 70 protocols. 70 protocols. 70 protocols. 70 protocols. Safety protocols are for peacetime," Minho said, his hands moving across the control panel. "Right now, there are 2 million people waiting for us to show up. We're not going to be late because we were afraid to push our engines." The reactors hummed louder as more power flowed through them. The ship vibrated slightly. Every human on board felt it and smiled. They knew that sound. It was the sound of a warship going to war. In the Marine quarters, Sergeant Hana ran her troops through combat drills. The hangar bay was cramped, but space was always tight on warships. Her Marines practiced in full armor, moving through mock urban environments, practicing room clearing and civilian extraction. "Faster," she yelled. "The Valerians are small and scared. You need to identify targets in milliseconds. Friendly, hostile, civilian. If you hesitate, someone dies. Move, move, move." The Marines crashed through the mock buildings, their armor making them look like walking tanks. Each suit weighed over 200 pounds, but the powered servos made it feel like wearing regular clothes. A human in combat armor could punch through a brick wall, survive a fall from 50 feet, and keep fighting after taking hits that would destroy an unarmored person. Private Hyun stumbled during a drill. Hana was on her immediately. "What happened?" "Sorry, Sergeant. Lost my balance. In combat, losing your balance means dying. It also means the civilian you're protecting dies. Again. Do it until you can do it in your sleep." Hyun nodded and went back to the start of the course. No complaints, no excuses. That was the human way. You failed. You learned. You improved. Hana watched her troops and felt pride. These men and women had volunteered to put themselves between danger and the helpless. They came from a world where everything was dangerous, and they chose to use that strength to protect others. On the bridge, Yuna was analyzing the tactical situation. Her screen showed the Valerian system and the estimated position of the Krenth fleet. Over 300 ships, according to the last transmission before the colony's communications went dark. "Sir, the Krenth have us outnumbered 7-1, she reported. "Good," Dae-hyun said. "Then it's almost fair." Yuna laughed despite the tension. Human humor was strange to most aliens. They joked about death, about danger, about impossible odds. It was how they dealt with fear. "What's the plan, sir?" Dae-hyun pulled up a tactical display. "The Krenth fight like animals. They swarm. They overwhelm through numbers. But they've never fought anyone with real military training. We hit them hard and fast. Full weapons, free from the start. Target their command ship first. Cut off the head, and the body dies. And if they scatter, then we chase down the ones that attacked the colony. The rest can run. We're here for the Valarians, not to hunt pirates across the galaxy. Time passed slowly on a ship moving at maximum speed. The crew worked in shifts, eating quickly, sleeping in short bursts. Medical Officer Tae-young made his rounds, checking on everyone. The high acceleration put stress on even human bodies. He prescribed supplements and monitored vital signs. "How are you holding up, Commander?" he asked when he reached the bridge. "I'm fine, Doctor," Dae-hyun said without looking away from his screens. "You haven't slept in 20 hours. I'll sleep when the Valarians are safe." Tae-young sighed. He had served with Dae-hyun for 5 years and knew better than to argue. The commander would push himself until the mission was complete. It was both his greatest strength and biggest weakness. 40 hours into the journey, they received a partial transmission from the Valarian colony. It was broken and filled with static, but the message was clear. The Krenth were starting their final assault. Shields were down to 12%. Evacuation centers were under direct attack. The message ended with a child crying for their mother. Every human who heard it felt something cold and hard settle in their chest. They had all been children once. They all knew what it was like to be afraid. None of them could stand by while children died. "All hands, this is Commander Dae-hyun." His voice echoed through every ship in the fleet. "You heard the transmission. We have 20 hours to reach the colony. I know, we're already at maximum speed. I know the engines are hot and the reactors are straining. I know you're tired. But somewhere out there, children are dying because monsters think they're easy prey. So we're going to show these monsters what happens when they pick on someone protected by Earth. Engineering, give me more speed. Marines, prepare for immediate combat drop. All crews, battle stations in 18 hours. Let's go save some lives." The response was immediate. In engineering, Minho pushed the reactors to 112%. The ship groaned, but held together. In the Marine Bay, Haina's troops loaded live ammunition and checked their drop pods one last time. Across the fleet, 47 ships full of humans prepared to do what humans did best: fight against impossible odds and win. 16 hours before estimated arrival, the fleet began final preparations. Weapons were armed, shields were tested, combat computers were updated with the latest tactical data. Commander Sunho, captain of the destroyer Relentless, ran his ship through attack pattern simulations. His crew was small, only 80 people, but they were the best destroyer crew in the fleet. Fast, aggressive, and completely fearless. Just the way Sunho liked it. "Nav, I want a course that takes us right through the middle of their formation," he ordered. "Weapons, prepare all missile tubes. We're going to bloody their nose before the main fleet arrives." His crew grinned. They knew what that meant. The Relentless would be the first ship to engage, drawing fire and creating chaos. It was dangerous, possibly suicidal. They could not wait. 10 hours out, Dae-hyun gathered his senior officers for a final briefing. The holographic display showed the Valarian system in detail. "We drop out of FTL here." He pointed to a spot at the edge of the system. "The Krenth won't expect us to come in that fast. We'll have maybe 30 seconds before they react. Sunho, your ship goes in first. Hit them hard. Make them think you're the entire fleet. While they're focused on you, the rest of us close the distance." "Understood, sir," Sunho said, still grinning. "Hana, your Marines drop the moment we clear their orbital defenses. Your mission is to secure the evacuation centers and protect the civilians. Kill any Krenth on the ground, but your priority is the Valarians." "Yes, sir." Tae-young, set up field hospitals as soon as we have secure landing zones. "Already prepared, sir. I've studied their biology. We can adapt most of our medical equipment." Dae-hyun looked at each of his officers. They were tired, running on stimulants, and pure determination, but their eyes were clear and focused. "The Council thinks we're monsters," he said quietly. They think we're violent, aggressive, dangerous. They're right. We are all of those things. But they forget something important. We choose who we point that violence at. Today, we point it at the Krenth swarm. Today, we show the galaxy what humans really are. And what's that, sir? Asked Yuna. Daehyun smiled, and it was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator about to hunt. Protectors. The Third Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light speed exactly 16 kilometers from the Valerian colony world. Sensors immediately showed the nightmare they had raced to stop. Over 300 Krenth vessels surrounded the planet like hungry predators circling wounded prey. Orbital defense platforms hung in space, dark and dead. Debris fields marked where civilian ships had tried to escape and failed. The planet's surface showed fires burning in dozens of locations. On the Indomitable's bridge, Daehyun took in the tactical display with cold eyes. The Krenth ships were smaller than human vessels, built for speed rather than armor. They relied on overwhelming numbers and savage aggression. Against peaceful council species, it worked perfectly. Against humans, it would be their death sentence. "Sir, we're being scanned," Yuna reported. "The Krenth have detected us." On the Krenth command ship, War Leader Krath stared at his displays in confusion. 47 unknown vessels had appeared at the system's edge. They were larger than typical council ships, and moving fast. Very fast. Too fast. "Identify those ships," he ordered his sensor officer. "Unknown configuration, War Leader. But they're broadcasting human identification codes." Krath felt a moment of unease. He had heard stories about humans. Most species in the galaxy had. They came from a death world called Earth, where the gravity was crushing. The weather was lethal. And predators hunted in every environment. The humans themselves were persistence hunters who had clawed their way to the top of their world's food chain through sheer determination. But they were far from their space. And Krath had 300 ships. "Send 50 vessels to intercept and destroy them," he ordered. The rest, continue the assault on the planet. It was the last calm order he would give. The 50 Krenth ships accelerated toward the human fleet, weapons charging. They expected the humans to slow down, to broadcast warnings, to try diplomacy like the soft council species always did. The humans did not slow down. At maximum range, the Indomitable's weapons officer locked onto the approaching Krenth vessels. "Targets acquired. Railguns ready. Fire," Daehyun said simply. The Indomitable's main railguns spoke with thunder that shook the ship. Tungsten slugs accelerated to a fraction of light speed, crossing the distance in seconds. 12 Krenth cruisers exploded instantly, their light armor completely unable to stop projectiles moving that fast. The Krenth formation scattered in confusion. They had never seen weapons like this. Their sensors barely detected the slugs before impact. "All ships, weapons free," Daehyun ordered. "Show them what Earth sends to protect the innocent." 47 human warships opened fire at once. The space between the two fleets, filled with railgun slugs, missiles, and directed energy weapons. The Krenth returned fire with plasma torpedoes and particle beams, scoring hits on human ships. The cruiser Pacific Hammer took a direct plasma hit that melted through her forward armor. Lieutenant Jiwon, monitoring damage control, immediately sealed the affected sections and rerouted power around the damaged systems. Crew members in the hit area died instantly, but the ship kept fighting. "Damage report," the Pacific Hammer's captain demanded. "Forward armor compromised, 17 casualties, weapons systems still operational." Jiwon reported, with professional calm. In the background, alarms screamed, and fire suppression systems activated. "Good. Continue firing." The battle intensified. More Krenth ships died under the precise, overwhelming fire from human weapons. But the Krenth had numbers on their side. They swarmed around the human fleet, firing from multiple angles. The destroyer, relentless, true to her name, broke formation and charged directly into the Krenth fleet. Commander Sunho stood on his bridge with hands behind his back, watching the enemy vessels grow larger on the screen. All power to forward shields. Point defense to maximum. Ramming speed. His crew executed the orders without question. They had trained for this. The Relentless was built to be fast and deadly, and Sunho was about to prove it. The small destroyer crashed through the Krenth formation like a bullet through paper. Her point defense systems fired constantly, destroying incoming missiles and torpedoes. Her railguns targeted ship engines and weapons, disabling rather than destroying. 20 Krenth vessels lost power in her wake, drifting and helpless. "She's insane," Yuna said, watching the Relentless's charge on the tactical display. "He's effective," Daehyun corrected. "And he's drawing their attention. All ships, advance on the colony. Formation Delta. Secure orbital space." The Krenth war leader Krath watched his tactical display with growing horror. His 50-ship intercept force was already down to 30 ships. The humans fought with a precision and ferocity he had never encountered. Their weapons were devastatingly powerful. Their ships took damage that would destroy Krenth vessels, and kept fighting, and they were not slowing down. "Recall all ships from the planet," he ordered. "Full fleet engagement. Kill them." It was exactly what Daehyun wanted. As the Krenth vessels pulled back from their orbital bombardment to engage the human fleet, Sergeant Hana watched from the Indomitable's launch bay. The moment orbital space started to clear, she gave the order. "All Marines, into your pods. We launch in 30 seconds." 200 armored Marines climbed into individual drop pods. Each pod was essentially a heavily armored shell with a single seat and basic controls. The Marine rode inside, while the pod's heat shields protected them during atmospheric entry. Most species considered drop pods insane. The idea of climbing into a metal coffin, being shot out of a ship, falling through a planet's atmosphere at terminal velocity, and landing in a combat zone was beyond their comprehension. Humans called it Tuesday. 10 seconds, Hana counted down. "Remember, priority is civilian protection. Kill any Krenth you see, but save the Valerians first. 5 seconds. This is what we trained for." Launch. 200 drop pods fired from the Indomitable like bullets from a gun. They fell toward the planet's surface, trailing fire from atmospheric friction. Krenth ships tried to shoot them down, but the pods were small, fast, and armored. Most made it through. Hana felt the pod shake violently as it hit the atmosphere. G-forces pressed her into her seat, but her armor's systems compensated. She watched her altitude counter drop rapidly. 5,000 meters, 4,000, 3,000. At 1,000 meters, the pod's retro rockets fired, slowing her descent. At 100 meters, the pod's sides exploded outward, and she jumped free, her armor's jets cushioning her landing. She hit the ground in the middle of the Valerian colony's main evacuation center. Around her, other pods landed with thunderous impacts. Marines emerged from each one, weapons ready. The scene was chaos. Valerian civilians huddled in groups, their large eyes wide with terror. Fires burned in nearby buildings, and Krenth raiders moved through the streets, killing anyone they found. Hana saw a Krenth warrior standing over a Valerian family, weapon raised. She raised her rifle and fired once. The Krenth's head exploded in a spray of purple blood. "All units, secure the perimeter," she ordered. "Teams of 4. Clear every building. If it's Krenth, kill it. If it's Valerian, protect it. Move." Her Marines spread out with practiced efficiency. They had trained for urban combat in 100 different scenarios. This was just one more. A group of 6 Krenth warriors charged at Hana's position. They were larger than Valerians, with thick armor and vicious-looking weapons. Against the small, peaceful Valerians, they were terrifying. Against humans in powered combat armor, they were target practice. Hana's Marines opened fire. The Krenth armor, designed to stop Valerian weapons, provided no protection against human rifles, firing armor-piercing rounds. All 6 raiders died in seconds. The Valerians nearby stared in shock at these new arrivals. The humans were giants, each one standing over 2 meters tall in their armor. They moved with deadly purpose, clearing the area of Krenth with brutal efficiency. One young Valerian child, barely reaching up to Hana's armored knee, looked up at her with huge, terrified eyes. "Are you going to hurt us too?" the child asked in a tiny voice. Hana knelt down, her armor servos whining softly. She retracted her helmet, revealing her human face. She had scars from past battles and eyes that had seen too much war. But when she looked at the child, her expression softened. "No, little one," she said gently. "We're here to protect you. We heard you needed help, so we came. No one is going to hurt you anymore." 17-1 place. When we're hurt you in Reezer. The child started crying and hugged Hana's armored leg. Other Valarians nearby began to understand. These terrifying warriors from the Death World had come to save them. Above the planet, the space battle reached its peak. The Krenth had superior numbers, but the humans had superior everything else. Training, weapons, armor, and most importantly, motivation. They had not come here to conquer or to steal. They had come to protect, and they were very, very good at it. Dae-hyun watched his tactical display with satisfaction. The Krenth fleet was breaking apart. Some ships fled. Some tried to fight. All of them failed. His ships moved through them like wolves through sheep, but the battle was not over yet. The Krenth flagship, the Blood Reaver, was still operational and still fighting. "Target that flagship," Dae-hyun ordered. "I want it destroyed." The Krenth flagship Blood Reaver was the largest ship in their fleet, a massive dreadnought covered in trophies from 100 conquered worlds. War leader Krath stood on its bridge, watching his fleet die around him with disbelief. This was not how battles went. The Krenth swarm always won through numbers and fear. They attacked the weak, the peaceful, the unprepared. They had never faced an opponent who fought back with such overwhelming force. Now his 300 ships were reduced to less than 150, and the humans showed no signs of slowing down. "All remaining vessels, form up on the flagship," he ordered. "We concentrate our fire and break through their formation. Then we retreat." It was a reasonable plan against any normal opponent, but the humans were not normal. On the Indomitable, Dae-hyun saw the Krenth vessels clustering around their flagship. He recognized the tactic immediately. They were preparing to run. "Captain Yuna, relay to all ships. Do not let that flagship escape. I want it dead." Yuna's fingers moved across her console. "All vessels acknowledge. The Vengeance and Thunderchild are moving to cut off their escape route." The 2 human battleships accelerated to intercept positions, their massive hulls bristling with weapons. The Krenth fleet tried to fight through them. It was like trying to fight through a mountain. The Vengeance's captain, a stern woman named Saman, watched the Krenth ships approach with cold calculation. "All batteries, concentrated fire on their cruisers. Remove their escorts first." Her weapons officer obeyed. The Vengeance's railguns fired in sequence, each shot precisely placed. Krenth cruisers exploded one after another, their debris spreading across space. The Thunderchild, under Captain Bora's command, focused on the smaller vessels trying to flank them. Her point defense systems worked overtime, destroying incoming missiles while her main guns punched through Krenth armor with contemptuous ease. "They're trying to overwhelm us with numbers," Bora said calmly. "Let them try. We've got ammunition for days." On the planet's surface, Hana's Marines had secured the main evacuation center and were pushing outward, clearing the city block by block. The Krenth ground forces, used to terrorizing helpless civilians, found themselves hunted by opponents who were faster, stronger, and far more skilled. Private Hyun, the Marine who had stumbled during training, moved through a burning building with her team. They could hear Krenth voices ahead, along with Valerian screaming. She signaled her team, and they moved in perfect coordination. 3 Krenth warriors were in a room, weapons pointed at a group of Valerian families. They were enjoying the fear they caused, laughing at the small aliens' terror. Hyun's team did not give them time to react. 4 rifles fired as one. 4 Krenth fell dead. The Valerians screamed again, this time in shock at their sudden rescue. "You're safe now," Hyun said through her helmet speakers. Her voice translated into Valarian language. "Stay here. We'll clear the rest of the building." The Marines moved on, leaving the Valerians huddled together but alive. Behind them, Medical Officer Taeyoung's teams arrived, setting up field hospitals in the secured zones. Taeyoung worked quickly, treating Valarian wounded with equipment designed for humans but adapted on the fly. The Valarians were smaller, more fragile, but the basic principles of medicine remained the same. Stop the bleeding, stabilize the patient, save the life. One Valerian doctor watched him work with amazement. "How do you know our biology?" 1. "I studied every species file the Council had on you during our flight here," Taeyoung answered, his hands never stopping their work. 60 hours is a long time to read, but our biology is so different from yours. Taeyoung smiled slightly. All biology is different. But all living things want to keep living. That part is universal. Back in orbit, the battle was reaching its climax. The Krenth flagship Blood Reaver was trying to break through the human formation, firing everything it had. Its plasma cannons burned through space. Its missile tubes launched salvo after salvo. Its particle beams carved molten scars across human armor. The Indomitable took several direct hits. Lieutenant Jiwon coordinated damage control teams as fires broke out in multiple sections. Hull breaches vented atmosphere into space. Crew members died at their stations. But the ship did not stop fighting. "Engineering, I need full power to forward shields," Daehyun ordered, his voice calm despite the chaos. In the engineering section, Minho watched his displays with sweat running down his face. The reactors were running at 115%, well beyond their designed limits. Warning lights flashed everywhere. The heat was intense even with the cooling systems at maximum. "You want more power?" he shouted into his communicator. "I'll give you more power." He rerouted energy from non-essential systems, pushed the reactors even harder, and prayed to whatever god protected crazy engineers. The Indomitable's shields flared brighter as more power flowed into them. On the bridge, Daehyun watched the distance to the Blood Reaver close. The enemy flagship was larger than any human ship, covered in heavy armor and bristling with weapons. It was designed to intimidate and dominate. It had never faced a human commander who did not know the meaning of intimidation. "Close to point-blank range," he ordered. "All weapons prepare to fire." "Sir, at that range, their weapons will tear us apart," Yuna warned. "Our weapons will tear them apart first. Do it." The Indomitable surged forward, her engines burning at maximum. The Blood Reaver fired everything it had. Plasma beams melted through armor. Missiles exploded against shields. Particle weapons burned deep into the ship's hull. Damage reports flooded in. Deck 7 was open to space. The port reactor was offline. Casualties were mounting. The ship's structural integrity was at 60% and falling. Daehyun ignored it all. His eyes were fixed on the Blood Reaver, now filling his entire view screen. "Main spinal cannon, charge to full power," he ordered quietly. The Indomitable's primary weapon ran the entire length of the ship, a massive magnetic accelerator cannon that could fire projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. It took enormous power to charge and was only used for killing other capital ships. "Cannon charged and ready," the weapons officer reported. "Fire." The ship's lights dimmed as all available power flowed into the weapon. For a moment, everything else stopped. The engines, the shields, the life support, everything. Then the cannon fired. A solid tungsten projectile, 3 meters long and weighing 3 tons, accelerated down the length of the ship. Magnetic fields accelerated it faster and faster until it left the barrel at 4% the speed of light. The projectile crossed the distance to the Blood Reaver in a fraction of a second. It hit the enemy flagship's forward section with kinetic energy that exceeded the ship's structural limits by orders of magnitude. The Blood Reaver did not explode dramatically. It simply came apart. The massive kinetic impact shattered the ship's molecular bonds. The forward half vaporized instantly. The rear half tore into pieces that tumbled through space, trailing atmosphere and bodies. War Leader Krath had just enough time to realize what was happening before the bridge section he stood in tore itself apart around him. On the Indomitable's bridge, silence fell as everyone stared at the debris field that had been the Krenth flagship. Target destroyed, the weapons officer said unnecessarily. Dae-hyun took a breath and looked at his tactical display. The remaining Krenth ships were scattering in all directions. Their formation broken, their leader dead. Some tried to flee to faster than light speed. Some simply surrendered. A few kept fighting and died for their stubbornness. All ships, cease pursuit, Dae-hyun ordered. Let them run. Our mission was to save the Valerians, not hunt pirates across the galaxy. Commander Sunho's voice came over the communications channel. Relentless to indomitable. Enemy forces routed. Colony secured. Requesting permission to begin recovery operations. Dae-hyun allowed himself a small smile. Permission granted. All ships, begin search and rescue. Medical teams to the surface. Engineering teams to help restore colony infrastructure. We came here to help. On the planet, Sergeant Hana stood in the center of the evacuation site, surrounded by Valarians. Her armor was scorched and dented from combat. Her rifle was empty. She had not stopped moving for 8 hours. A Valerian elder approached her slowly, looking up at the towering human with a mixture of awe and gratitude. You came, the elder said simply. We called for help. And you came. Hana removed her helmet again, revealing her tired face. Of course we came. That's what we do. Someone calls for help. We answer. The council told us humans were dangerous, violent, that your world made you into monsters. Hana looked around at her Marines, who were now helping Valarian civilians, carrying wounded to medical stations, putting out fires, and distributing emergency supplies. Our world did make us dangerous, she said. It made us strong enough to protect others. The council was wrong about one thing, though. We're not monsters. Monsters attack the weak. We protect them. The Valerian elder's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Hana knelt down to the elder's level. Thank you for calling. You reminded us why we became strong in the first place. News of the Valerian rescue spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communications could carry it. Within days, every species in the Galactic Council knew what had happened. Humans had answered a distress call. They had deployed overwhelming military force. They had destroyed a fleet 3 times their size. And they had saved 2 million civilians without asking for anything in return. The council chambers erupted in debate. Thal Non, the council member who had authorized sending the distress signal to humans, found himself both praised and condemned. Some members called him a hero for saving the Valerians. Others accused him of unleashing dangerous predators on the galaxy. They violated 17 different council regulations about military engagement, Council member Voreth argued, his large frame shaking with anger. They attacked without authorization. They used excessive force. They killed thousands of Krenth. The Krenth were committing genocide. Thalnon replied calmly. The humans stopped them. I fail to see the problem. The problem is that we now have a species with overwhelming military power who thinks they can act without council oversight, Prella added, though her tone was less certain than before. What happens the next time they decide someone needs their help? Perhaps more lives get saved, Thalnon suggested. Perhaps that is not such a terrible thing. The debate raged for days. Meanwhile, in Valerian space, the human Third Fleet remained in orbit, helping with reconstruction. Engineer Minho led teams that worked 18-hour shifts to restore the colony's power grid, water systems, and communications network. He showed Valerian technicians how to reinforce their defensive shields using principles from Earth's military engineering. Your shields were designed to stop small meteors and radiation, he explained to a group of Valerian engineers. What if instead of small rocks, someone shoots missiles at you? What if they use plasma weapons? Your shields need to handle that. The Valerian chief engineer looked overwhelmed. But we are a peaceful people. We do not think about such things. Minho smiled kindly. I understand. That's why we're here. We'll teach you what we know. Not so you can attack others, but so you can protect yourselves. Being peaceful is good. Being helpless is not. Medical Officer Taeyong had established a fully functional field hospital that treated hundreds of wounded Valarians every day. He worked alongside Valarian doctors, sharing human medical techniques and learning Valarian biology in return. Your regenerative abilities are remarkable, he told one Valarian doctor while they worked on a patient. If we can understand how your cells repair damage, we might be able to adapt that for human medicine, and we can learn from your trauma treatment, the Valarian doctor replied. You have techniques for treating injuries we never imagined anyone could survive. We come from a world that tries to kill us constantly, Taeyong said with a slight smile. We got very good at not dying. Sergeant Hana trained Valarian security forces in basic defensive tactics. She had to modify human training significantly because Valarians were physically much weaker and less durable. No full-contact sparring, no high-gravity endurance runs, no live ammunition exercises, but they could still learn. They could learn to think tactically, to work as teams, to understand that they had options beyond hiding and hoping for rescue. You will never be as physically strong as humans, Hana told a class of Valarian security officers. But you can be smart, you can be prepared, you can protect your people until help arrives. And now, you know, help will come. One young Valarian officer raised a hand. Will humans always come when we call for help? Hana thought about that for a moment. I cannot speak for all humans, but I can tell you this. You called once, and we came. If you call again, I believe we will come again. That is who we are. On the Indomitable, Commander Dae-hyun received daily reports from Earth Command. The political situation was complicated. Some human politicians supported his actions. Others worried about antagonizing the council. Economic sanctions were being discussed. There were even calls for his court-martial for unauthorized military action. Captain Yuna found him in his quarters, reviewing the latest communication from Earth. What does command say? She asked. They want me to return immediately for a full inquiry into my actions, Dae-hyun replied, setting down the tablet. They're concerned about diplomatic fallout. Are you going to comply? Dae-hyun looked out the viewport at the Valarian colony below. Construction crews were working around the clock. The fires were out. Power was restored to most districts. People were starting to return to their homes. No, he said simply. We have work to finish here. I'll face whatever consequences come later. Right now, these people need us. Yuna smiled. I thought you'd say that. For the record, the entire crew agrees with you, even if it means court-martial? Especially then. We didn't join the military to follow politicians. We joined to protect people. 3 weeks after the battle, the Valarian colony was largely restored. The human fleet prepared to depart. Every Valarian in the colony gathered at the main spaceport to see them off. Keltoth, the Valarian administrator, stood before Commander Dae-hyun. The small alien looked up at the tall human, with eyes full of emotion. We do not have words to express our gratitude, Keltoth said. You came when no one else could. You fought for us when we could not fight for ourselves. You asked for nothing in return. How can we ever repay this? Dae-hyun knelt down to Keltoth's level, just as Hana had done weeks ago with the Valarian child. You already have, he said gently. You reminded us why we became strong. Not to dominate others, but to protect them. That reminder is payment enough. But I will ask one thing of you. Anything, Keltoth said immediately. Remember this day. Remember that, when you called for help, someone answered. The next time you hear a call for help, be the ones who answer. That is how you repay us. By helping others the way we helped you. Keltoth nodded, understanding. We will remember. We will help others. And we will tell the galaxy what humans truly are. And what are we? Daehyun asked with a slight smile. Warriors who fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. Protectors who come from a world of death but bring life. Friends who answered when we called into the void. The human fleet departed to the sound of millions of Valarian voices calling out in gratitude. As the ships entered faster than light speed, Daehyun sat in his command chair and allowed himself to feel satisfaction. They had saved 2 million lives. They had shown the galaxy that humans could be trusted. They had done the right thing. Whatever came next, he could live with that. 6 months later, a Valarian delegation arrived at Earth. They came bearing gifts and a request. They wanted to establish formal diplomatic relations. They wanted to join what they called the Deathworlders Covenant, a mutual defense agreement based not on council bureaucracy but on the simple principle that the strong protect those who cannot protect themselves. The human government was surprised but pleased. This was not how they expected first contact to develop, but they welcomed the Valarians with open arms. More surprising was what came next. Other species, emboldened by the Valarian example, began to approach Earth. They were tired of council politics. They were tired of being told to fear humans. They wanted protection. They wanted allies. They wanted friends. The council watched with growing concern as species after species established relationships with the terrifying Deathworlders. Some council members continued to insist humans were dangerous and should be isolated, but more and more members were asking a different question. If humans were so dangerous, why did they only fight to protect others? If they were so violent, why did they rebuild the Valarian colony instead of conquering it? If they were monsters, why did they treat Valarian children with such gentleness? Thalnon watched the changing attitudes with quiet satisfaction. He had gambled by sending that distress call to humans. He had been right. On the Valarian colony, a massive monument was completed in the main spaceport. It showed a human marine in full combat armor, kneeling beside a small Valarian child. The marine's helmet was off, showing a human face that was both fierce and gentle. The inscription was written in both human and Valarian languages. They came from a world of death, but brought life. They were born of violence, but chose mercy. When we called into the void, the Deathworlders answered. Below that, a second inscription was added. Let all who see this remember. Strength without compassion is tyranny. Compassion without strength is helplessness. Together, they are protection. Commander Daehyun never saw the monument. He and the Third Fleet were already responding to another distress call, this time from a mining colony in the Andali system. Pirates again. The colony had 3 days before they fell. Captain Yuna entered his quarters with the report. Another rescue mission, sir. Should I plot a course? Daehyun did not hesitate. Maximum speed. Alert the crew. And someone send a message to that colony. Tell them. Help is coming. What should the message say? Daehyun thought about the Valarians, about the monument he did not know existed, about the children he had saved and the lives he had protected. Tell them this. You are not alone. The Deathworlders have heard your call. Hold on. We're coming. The Indomitable turned toward the stars once more, her engines burning bright in the darkness. Across the galaxy, other human ships did the same, responding to calls for help from species they had never met. The Council had been right about one thing. Humans were dangerous. They came from a world that tried to kill them every day, and they had become strong enough to fight back. But they had been wrong about what that strength meant. Humans did not use their strength to conquer. They used it to protect. They did not seek to dominate the weak. They sought to defend them. They were predators. Yes, but they chose their prey carefully. And their prey was those who hurt the innocent. The galaxy was learning a new truth. When darkness came, when hope faded, when death seemed certain, there was one thing you could do: call for help. And somewhere in the void, the Deathworlders would answer. They always did.